Well, both of us with our various issues, me in my 30s, you in your 40s, our life got very small during those times where we couldn't go out a whole lot for whatever reason. So yeah, we'd have the money would be in the bank, I guess. We wouldn't be leaving the house, but we'd have the money.
Yeah, it reminds me of Dust in the Wind. All your money won't another minute buy. And I want every minute feeling like this, not like I used to.
JJ and Eric, how did you find Carnivore?
Well, Eric came home one day talking about how we should all be eating tons of protein, which seemed absolutely crazy to me at the time because the amounts of protein you were talking about just seemed wild.
Yeah, I had listened to a podcast with Dr. Attia. I don't know who his guest was, and he was saying you should have a minimum dose of 30 grams or 40 grams at a time.
Which, again, seemed insane to me. So I just sort of rolled my eyes internally. I didn't roll them at him and went along my merry way. And wouldn't you know it, shortly after that conversation, Dr. Barry's videos started showing up in my YouTube feed. So I don't know if Siri was listening or what was going on because you never said the word carnivore at that point.
No.
So I started watching Dr. Barry's videos, and I had been doing intermittent fasting for several months at that point. So I was really interested in working with my doctor to get my insulin resistance under control. Or is that right? Insulin resistance?
Yeah.
Okay. And so when I started watching Dr. Barry's videos and he was talking about metabolic health and insulin specifically, I kind of jumped in. It sounded crazy still, but I jumped in. But here's the thing. I didn't tell him. Meanwhile, what were you doing at that time?
I was starting Carnivore.
So he didn't tell me. I didn't tell him. And then the holidays came. His birthday kicks off the holidays in November.
Then I kind of went off Carnivore.
Now, I was not perfect carnivore, but I certainly stayed true more than you did and just kept going along my merry way. And then May came along. This was, so you brought home the whole protein concept in October of 2022. May 2023 rolls around and you come to me and say,
"You're aging in reverse. What are you doing?" Because I could notice that she was losing weight and looking younger and obviously had way more energy. And I was getting concerned because I was continuing to age. And I wanted what she had.
Yes. So I told him I was doing Carnivore. And he's like, so what are you watching on YouTube? Because he kept seeing Dr. Barry's face. Who is this guy? And I couldn't believe you didn't come across him.
Well, I had seen him, but for whatever reason, I didn't watch a lot of carnivore content the first stint that I tried it.
Mm-hmm.
I think I had kind of based it off of hearing Dr. Baker on Joe Rogan. And that was my lesson. And, I never gave up the artificial sweeteners. And so the carb bug was always kind of still with me. And as the holidays came in, more of that stuff came in and kind of faded off of the course.
Yeah. So by end of May, you were on board.
Yeah. And that's when I really restarted in earnest. And I started with beef, bacon, butter, eggs, and coffee. And that was when I really found I made good progress. Prior to that, I don't know how many times I had gone through keto.
You went through keto a lot.
Over the decades. And it had always worked for me to lose weight. But the things that I needed it to do, it only carnivore could do. And that was turning around IBS, acid reflux, mental health issues, and a host of other typical things that we hear on your channel, Carnivores, testifying about.
Now, it did not work. Keto never worked for me like it did for him. And I only went full scale one time, I think. But I can tell you, it also did not work for me as the cook in the house because trying to get you the fat you needed when you would do keto was extremely hard and it was just a lot of cheese. I'd be cooking with a lot of cheese. But yeah, you brought home all kinds of different nutrition plans through the years.
Yeah, I think you've had so many amazing guests on who have had enormous health challenges that ours don't compare to.
Mm-mm.
But the message we always bring is it doesn't matter. You have your life and you feel the way you feel. And when you can improve the quality of your life through diet, it changes your life in dramatic ways. And how many people have you talked to who have been down juicing, smoothies, low fat, high carb, healthy whole grains? How many people with IBS have been told by their doctor to eat more fiber, and it's the fiber that's causing them just agony? I had a consult with a dietitian because it was, for me, IBS was gut pain constantly. And I had gone to a gastroenterologist. We had done a colonoscopy when I was 45 because I was worried. And he's like, no, it's just take these pills and eat more fiber. And so I got this consult, and I don't remember if it was low FODMAP. I don't remember what it was, but it was so much kale and so much spinach and broccoli. And to get it all down, I would make it into a smoothie with pineapple and a banana. And I was like, I am eating this healthy food. Why am I putting on weight? But I didn't understand really what it was doing to my blood sugar because I wasn't measuring it. And the most important thing was my acid reflux got way worse and my IBS was way worse. Because I was like, oh, it must be working because it hurts. But it wasn't working.
It was not working. He even started eating those big salads. They were beautiful salads. Holy cow. And I would try to tell him, ever since you started the salads, I think you've been worse. It was not met well.
So how did you know that I was doing worse eating the salad?
Because you're sitting over in the couch going, and constantly massaging your gut.
So at this point, I've got a question. When you started doing carnivore, how did you keep it secret?
Well, we come together one meal a day for dinner pretty much. And we eat in the living room, so we're not facing each other. And so I just stopped making the sweet potato. We were eating mostly whole foods at that point. I just stopped making the sweet potato for me and would just dish up the meat. And you didn't know what I was doing for breakfast. Or I didn't do breakfast at that point, but for lunch, you didn't know what I was doing.
No, because we didn't have lunch together.
Yeah.
So, and being fairly typical, I wasn't paying attention to her plate. I was focused on my plate. And that sweet potato was a drug to me because we had learned that trick on Whole30, which was another one of the things we had done, because it was one of the carby sweet things that was kind of allowed. And with some butter and cinnamon on it, it's like a dessert for dinner. And I got kind of addicted to those.
Yeah, you had a hard time giving those up.
I came to find out, I guess they're chock full of oxalates.
Whoops.
So, well, everything else I ate was too.
Yeah.
So just you've both been doing carnivore now since May 2023.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And when you think back to, especially Eric, with you're being told kale, eat kale, and you're making the smoothies and stuff. How do you feel that the education is kind of actually taking you in the wrong direction?
Well, it'll be no surprise to people who are already carnivore that we live in an upside down world where reality is flipped. It's like in Stranger Things where there's the upside down, except for conventional diet advice and medicine lives in the upside down in the haunted, shadowy realm that's false. But you don't know that because we've been so indoctrinated into how healthy and good for us all of these leafy greens are because of all the phytonutrients. And I mean, we've listened to endless Dr. Chafee, and we now understand that there's a lot of anti-nutrients and toxins in them. And for people who have gut issues, it's not great to introduce those because it just complicates things. But I just think that there's actually, it's assumed that these things are healthy, that there actually in the education is no examination of the evidence or any counterfactuals at all. So I don't think these people who mean very well in general, they want to help people and they want to make us feel better. They think they're telling us the right advice, but it is just advice they've received from somewhere else and not through direct experience. And that's what's so brilliant about the whole carnivore community on YouTube, is that all these people are doing these N of 1 experiments and coming together and saying, we're changing our lives, we're healing things, we're reversing things that we were told by our doctor cannot be done.
How are you both eating at this stage? Is it 2 meals a day still?
I am eating 2 meals a day. My integrative doctor wants me pretty much to stick to 2 meals a day. About 2 or 3 times a month, I'll do a full 42-hour fast and then refeed with 3 meals a day, but pretty much 2 meals a day for me. And you have just shifted things up.
I just started time-restricted eating. I had been doing breakfast, lunch, dinner, and I had hit a little bit of a plateau. And the first thing I did was I did a week of recording everything I ate. And what became really clear was I was having the artificial sweeteners had eked back into my life, but dairy had become a much bigger component than I had thought it was. So I eliminated the artificial sweeteners and the dairy, and immediately I noticed puffiness starting to go away. The weight loss stall stopped, but I was finding that I wasn't hungry enough to eat 3 meals a day. So I said, well, why do it? So I started the time restricted eating. So I do breakfast, late lunch. We call it dunch. And we eat the dunch together. And then for the rest of the night, a fast until morning.
Which I'm so glad about, because I would always ask him, do you want some dinner? And he'd say, yes, I do want dinner. And then I would make dinner. That was our meal together, the one that I make. And he'd eat like 3 bites and be done. And I'd be like, oh no.
Yeah, that wasn't the best. The dogs like that though.
So yeah, that has actually caused me to shift my eating window too. So now I'm eating a little earlier in the day, where I used to eat from about 12:30 to 6:30. Now I'm done by 4. Yeah.
It's great to be able to do this as a couple. It makes everything so much easier. Now, there are dangerous carbs in the house.
Yes, there are.
Because our college-age daughter is home and she's not on board at all.
No.
She's a carbivore.
Yes, she is. Yeah.
Well, what does she think? Does she think like mom and dad have gone crazy, or what?
She does. So we started a YouTube channel together in December, and we didn't tell anyone at all we were doing it because we didn't know what was going to happen or anything. And she came home from college at the beginning of June, and we had just hit 1,000 subscribers, and we're like, okay, she's home. We've hit 1,000. This is happening. We need to tell her. And she was kind of ticked off that we were doing a YouTube channel, for one thing. And it's funny because Eric had been the one who brought home the juicing and the smoothies and most of the things throughout the years, that she at first thought it was his thing. Oh, what's this crazy thing dad brought home? And I'm like, no, I actually really took the lead with this one. And it's really not crazy.
So she's 20, and all we can do is be a model, and example. And we don't want to hit her over the head with it, because that just kind of makes people more defensive, and we don't need that. But coming out as carnivore to our other family and friends has been an interesting experience that we delayed for a long time.
It really did. I know when I told my family, I started by saying, well, I'm keeping an eye on my insulin, which was okay. They liked that idea. And then I started saying, well, I'm eating a whole food meat-based diet, sort of really slurring through the whole food meat-based diet. And they didn't quite catch that. But then this year I told them, no, really, don't. I've been gluten-free for almost 13 years. And they always are so kind in making me gluten-free desserts and getting me gluten-free buns or whatever. And I'm like, no, really, don't do that anymore. Please do not do that.
And they did it anyway.
So there was a big sort of go around with it. And they did not end up serving it. And I'm like, no, please, I'm not going to eat it. I'm not going to take it home. I'm not going to eat it. And the idea is, well, can't you just jump off your diet for this special occasion? And, I get they don't understand that this is not a diet and that jumping off creates consequences like poor mood. For me, poor mood. It causes my blood sugar to spike, especially if I eat any type of a grain. That's like the worst for me. And not only that, but low energy. My energy goes down. I get a little bit puffy. It's just not worth it.
It's not worth it for me for her to go off because the transformation she's undergone, you've lost what, 30 pounds?
Yeah, I've lost 30.
And, but your happiness level is so consistently up.
Mm-hmm.
So if her mood is off, either she's been contaminated with gluten by somebody or there's something else going on, and maybe, life has its ups and downs, and carnivore has allowed us to roll with so many things way better than ever before. I've dealt with decades of anxiety. I had debilitating health anxiety and ended up on a continuous search for how do I get my brain to stop obsessing about my health? And I eventually got some help, and I found a medication that did help me. It gave me a little bit of breathing room so that I could live in a fairly normal state and react appropriately to the perturbations of life. When I started carnivore, I had always felt like every time I had to take the medicine, it didn't cause particular side effects that were noticeable. I just didn't like the idea of it. I felt weighed down by it, like I had somehow failed, which is obviously false. And so you can still carry a self-stigma around. So I decided, after reading Brain Energy by Dr. Palmer and Change Your Diet, Change Your Mind by Dr. Georgia Ede, that the ketosis was maybe going to be able to help me with mental health. Now, keto hadn't done it, but I decided to try to wean off of my SSRI.
And I was worried at this point. I mean, I supported him, but we had a pretty rough decade.
Yeah.
And so I was concerned.
So I did it very under a doctor's guidance, obviously. And it was actually a fairly aggressive taper, but the whole attitude was, if it's bad, I'll just go back up my dose. And I credit carnivore for making the weaning off of it much easier than it might otherwise have been. The side effects I had from that were fairly minor and not long-lived. And over the course of a couple of months, I finally had my last tiny dose. And it was kind of a leap of faith, and I felt the same. I felt the same as if I had been taking it. And that anxiety was under control. Now, it doesn't mean that the old triggers have disappeared. Obviously, if you're overly concerned about your health, you notice body sensations and you notice things and you can get worried. But for whatever reason, I have the ability to keep it in perspective and deal with the anxieties as they arise and not get stuck in the obsessive compulsive vortex.
Yeah.
And for that alone, there's no question about going off of carnivore. There's no question about risking going off the wagon with my birthday coming up in November, and then our Thanksgiving, and then Christmas, of going crazy for 2 months. because all of those things, the IBS, the acid reflux, the mental illness, and the weight and the inflammation and the achiness, it's all waiting there to be reclaimed if I choose to go that path. And that's one of the things that we talk about frequently is carnivore is kind of self-correcting. When you go off of it, it lets you know with immediate symptoms and sensations that are not fun.
No. And you've had, I think, the biggest health transformation with your IBS issues and your health anxiety, the SSRI.
Mm-hmm.
What else?
Well, I've lost 26 pounds and I've put on a lot of muscle. I had been working out a lot over, since my 20s and 30s, and I could never really make much gain. But thinking back, I was eating 2 chicken breasts for lunch and maybe a whey shake at night, thinking, oh, I got 35, 40 grams of protein. That should be enough. And my poor muscles are like, that's not even a starting point. I mean, we get like 150 grams of protein every day now. It's ridiculous. So it's in retrospect, it seems very obvious that we needed more protein, but it isn't obvious when you're in that mindset of it must be lean. And we were always told the serving size is the palm of your hand. That's how much meat you should have at any given meal, because otherwise you'll have too much protein and your kidneys will fail.
And the thing is, that's taught to us over decades, right? So you just never ever doubt that stuff.
Yeah, it's programmed.
Yeah. It's conditioning.
Yeah.
It's total conditioning. So we feel like we've broken free of it and are experiencing the best health of our lives, the best bodies of our lives. It's crazy.
She had a funeral for her funeral skirt today.
I did. I have a pencil skirt. Ladies, you know what that is. It's classic. It never goes out of style. I have had it. I bought it for job interviews out of college. So I've had it 21 years and it has a little stretch, obviously, it's rest in peace, funeral skirt. It is no longer able to stay on my body.
She had it on today. It's ridiculously large.
Yeah. I love that skirt.
Wow.
But I'm happy.
Yeah, it's also, I mean, it's as a problem that comes from carnivore, but it's a good problem to have, right? It's like having to do something about your wardrobe. Yeah.
Yes, I just broke down and it's the end of summer here, and I just bought 2 pair of shorts because I just couldn't, I couldn't keep cinching them up. I put new holes in my belts and I was like, okay, I was trying to hold off till next season, but it's time.
It's funny because her weight loss has been very obvious. Now, she was never exceptionally overweight, in my opinion, but there's a family member who shall remain nameless who sent her a very helpful article warning her of the dangers of Ozempic.
Yes.
Because she could not believe that her results were from carnivore.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And I have a lot of friends. I have a few who've asked me, but most of them stay quiet. So I think it might be a thing where multiple people might think
so just kind of assuming, which isn't to say that people who need it shouldn't be using it. We're not here to badmouth it, but it's a little irritating that she can't get credit for what she's done and the changes she's made.
Right. So sorry, Eric, I just want to go back to one thing you were talking about before,
Sure.
but before I do that, just want to talk about something that's a little bit off topic. At the start of this interview, I thought I was interviewing 2 people, but it feels like I'm interviewing 3. I've just noticed there's an R2D2 behind you, Eric. Is that right?
There is an R2D2 behind me. He's my mascot. Unfortunately, his electronics got fried, so he doesn't beep or light up right now. I need to get him fixed.
Nice. So Eric, just talking about the SSRI.
Yeah.
When you talk to your doctor about tapering that down, was your doctor like interested in why you were feeling you were able to do that now?
Yeah, he was supportive because I think it was I had been going to therapy, which was very important, and I had been doing other things to improve my health and fitness and work on sleep. So from his point of view, I was in a much better place, and I had been on it for what, a year and a half.
Mhm.
And so his opinion was, yeah, give it a try. And if it doesn't work, go back on it. So he was definitely not in a position where he wasn't in the mode of saying, no, you should just stay on this at all. That wasn't a part of the conversation.
It's more recently that we've told him we're actually doing carnivore. We sort of fudged it. We see the same doctor, and we sort of fudged it at first, saying we were eating whole food diet.
Yeah. Keto.
Keto, yeah. Low carb, which he wanted me to eat a low carb paleo diet. So yeah, that's what I'm doing.
Right, but and he knows now that it's carnivore.
He does, yes.
What was his reaction to that?
Well, he's done the Clearly thing. You know more about that than I.
Yeah. I mean, he obviously follows our blood lipids, and he tends to have a more cautious eye about LDL, ApoB, and all that stuff that us carnivores tend to not want to think are necessarily important. As a non-doctor, non-researcher, I just say, I don't know the answers about those things. I do know that in years past, when I had been on a statin, I had bad side effects. And this particular doctor doesn't want me to take it if I have side effects.
Mhm.
So when I was doing low carb, he was very surprised that my triglycerides were not coming down, which is what you would typically see among carnivores. But I feel like he just views it as a bit of a puzzle, a metabolic puzzle. And one of the answers to that puzzle, the solutions might be, you need more time doing this diet to eventually get whatever internal healing is necessary to see that happen. But he encouraged us to both get our calcium score done, which we did last year. I had a 0. And now he's encouraging a CT angiogram because, abundance of caution thing. Now that's not cheap, and insurance isn't going to pay for that one. So I think we're going to do it, but but what am I going to do if depending on the results? There's no statin that I can take, nor am I particularly eager or willing to take it. So I'm not sure what the outcome of a positive result would be from that.
And you've already said you're not going back to IBS and reflux and
exactly
health anxiety. So what's the option?
So this is the kind of the conundrum, I guess, right? That you've got people who advocate a plant-based diet, and they talk about how plants are wonderful and it's going to lower your cholesterol and it's going to do all these good things to you. But on the flip side of that is you're also going to get the digestion issues. You're also going to get, like, it affects my sleep really badly if I eat plants, and all these other bad things. Whereas we can resolve all those bad side effects by eating an only meat diet, but our cholesterol's going to go up, and it's like, somehow we've got to decide where we are. And I for me personally, I'm happy to sit with the high cholesterol because everything else is better. And I feel like I could be wrong, but my body's telling me that everything feels good. Yeah. Everything feels right. So I feel like I should trust my body.
Yeah. And I went on hormone replacement therapy years ago because my 30s were a really rough decade for me, with bouts of depression and extremely low energy. And it was all this hormonal mess for me, including fibroids, miscarriage, etc. And so when I decided to do hormone replacement therapy, he was concerned. He was in that paradigm of it could cause cancer, which we now know isn't necessarily the case. But I told him that my quality of life was more important than longevity in this case, because again, just like he was saying, I could not go back to where I was in my 30s. Now, what's interesting is I got some relief from going gluten-free and some relief from hormone replacement therapy, but I didn't realize I had a whole different level, that those were just propping me up. And once I fed my body what it needed, like Eric mentioned, my energy and my mood is just amazing. And something, like I said, I don't think I've ever experienced since I was a small child. Not even a teenager, like a small child.
Yeah, she was making herself a lunch or something, and I look over in the kitchen, and she's got a fork with some steak on it or something, and she does a high kick just for no reason, because she just is happy. She was, she's a dancer, so she's good at it. If I did that, I'd fall over.
I can't help it. I feel like dancing. I feel like dancing again.
But I agree.
That's awesome.
It's a balance between how you feel and blood labs. It's like, well, if I had really good blood labs, I guess I'd feel good about those. But if I'm achy and tired and can't sleep, you have to live a life. And it's way better to live it feeling good with high cholesterol than feeling bad with low cholesterol, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and on the high cholesterol, I'm interested to know, I feel like in some ways, a high cholesterol is almost like, again, this is just me guessing, but it's kind of a little bit of a barrier, colds and things going around and stuff, I don't get sick as much since I've had high cholesterol. My whole family got COVID at the same time, way back in August of 22. And my wife and daughter suffered a lot, like really high fevers, really like couldn't get out of bed. And I was just like continuing to work from home like there was nothing wrong. I just feel like there seems to be some benefit in having high cholesterol, apart from the fact you feel good.
Well, I know for me, I also do youth theater. And I know that since I've been carnivore, I've not brought home any of their stuff really at all.
They're sick all the time.
Yeah. Yeah. It runs through the theater group, and I have not had any issues.
I don't know. I've had a mild cold maybe since starting carnivore. I've never gotten the virus as far as I know.
No.
Never tested positive for it. And I don't have any theories about why that is. Maybe I had it and just didn't notice it. But I think it's a valid theory that I don't have the expertise to really scrutinize it. But I can't remember that doctor I visited that one time way back when I was really convinced that LDL was a disaster. And at the time I was on a statin long before carnivore. And she said, some sort of integrative doc. And she said, the statin is reducing cholesterol, which is going to reduce all the downstream hormones that use cholesterol, like testosterone, for instance. And I was like, well, that makes sense, but I don't like it. But I think that there's a lot to that.
Well, and I had learned that way back when I gave up gluten and went to my first integrative doctor, that I learned all about that hormonal cascade. But I never had high cholesterol until I started to age, because, that's what happens when you age.
Right. So, yeah, that's one thing we hear a lot, that's what you're just getting old. Have you ever had that kind of feedback on something from a doctor? It's just age.
Well, that whole 30s decade where I was flat on my back, taking 2 naps a day and passing out asleep at 8:30 at night, they told me it was perimenopause. And so it was there's nothing we can do. And I was like, yeah, but at that time I owned my dance studio, and I also then became a life coach. So I worked for myself. I didn't have a standard 40-hour work week. And I was like, yeah, but women go to their jobs. I cannot go to my job. So that was the first time I heard it. And then since then, it's been a constant theme for any energy or mood issues I have. It's definitely just a part of a female's aging.
It does seem that, doctors, their job is to see sick people. And so what becomes normal for them is to see sick people. And so it probably appears that the older the patient is, the more illnesses they have. And that's a natural progression of aging. I could see how it would look that way to a health professional. But on this side, being carnivore, having watched our age-related issues reverse, it's becoming very convincing to me that it's not the years, it's the carbs.
That is a huge part of it. Yeah.
Yeah. You make a really good point there. Like the average of the people the doctors are seeing are all getting older and getting sicker as they get older. So naturally it's just human to say, well, this is what normally happens when you get older. And that kind of goes to a lot of the studies that we see that say, okay, well, the average LDL, for example, is this much. So if it's higher than that, then that's dangerous. And it's like, yeah, but you're taking the average of a sick population. So if you're taking the average of a sick population, that's not necessarily the proper average.
It is definitely not optimal. And you just said something the other day. I was talking about, I've had this ankle injury for 30 years or so that could only be fixed by surgery. And it was really bothering me as I aged. And I was thinking, well, do I have surgery now or do I wait till I get even older and deal with the recovery of surgery? And then I started carnivore and it's resolved quite a bit. And do you remember what you said?
No, but I remember that it was genius.
It was genius. It was that something like that the doctor.
Oh yeah.
Do you remember?
It was something that when a doctor says that something can't be cured or can't be done, it's because they only see people who eat the sad American or sad Western diet. And so they don't see carnivores. And so they don't see the reversal is possible. And I mean, it kind of speaks to our earlier point that what they believe, they believe their eyes and they just don't see us show up as much.
Yeah. They just do not see us.
And you're not going to go to that doctor and say, hey, you were wrong. I don't need surgery. He's never going to know that because you're silent about it with him.
I'm not going.
Yeah. So they never get the feedback that, oh, hang on. Yeah, you can fix these things. So yeah.
Yeah. He had just never seen a carnivore, you said, or something along those lines.
It does make us as carnivores. We have a joke that we often say on our channel that it makes us a bit insufferable because every person we see on TV or in the wild, we're like, they need to do carnivore because their life would just change. But we do have a filter, and so we don't just go accost strangers.
No, we don't. I was excited last week though because one of the Walgreens workers, I was wearing my shirt that said meat-based. And she asked me about it. Yeah. The first time anyone's asked me about my shirt. So I was happy about that.
When you're shopping and you've got the cart loaded up with all the meat and whatever, do you get funny looks as you're going through the register?
Occasionally I do. Yes, definitely. And especially when I'm sitting in there and I see the sales for the meat and I start really grabbing them, like throwing in tons of meat I'm like dancing in the aisle just about. I don't know if that's me or what's in the cart though.
Well, it's like you've won the lottery, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. I hit it big last week. It was good. Good meat sales.
For each of you, what is the one thing out of all the things that have improved for you? What's the one thing that keeps you on carnivore?
Oh, you're making me pick one. Energy. For me, having that decade that was really lost to me, and especially when I had a young child at that time and didn't feel like I could parent her, the energy that I have, the sustained energy is miraculous.
I want to say mental health because it's powerful, but the truth is ego.
Oh, really?
I'm stronger at 53 than I was at 23. I have more muscle mass. I feel like I'm way smarter. And I feel like carnivore is like this secret, even though it's not secret, hack that I have that is transforming what I thought was the back half of my life that was going to be a fairly steep decline to I'm still going up. I'm still improving. I'm still getting stronger. And so that, I get up in the morning and I feel good about myself in a way that I didn't my first 5 decades.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, nice. So how much money would it take for you to stop doing carnivore and go back to a regular diet? Like if I could give you 10 million, 20 million now, how much would it take?
I wouldn't do it. I know I want to hear his answer, but it's that quality of life piece. I wouldn't trade this quality of life. I just can't.
That's the thing, is that you could buy me for 10 million, but then I wouldn't get to enjoy it because I'd be sick all the time. And I'd be anxious and I would be low energy and I wouldn't be able to do any of the fun things with it that I would want to do. So it's tough. If someone actually had the cash,
Like a check right here.
yeah, I'm gonna be bold and say that no, that I'm not gonna go off carnivore for a check.
It's hard to believe, though. I mean, I'm sure people who have not experienced this cannot believe.
But you can't buy what we've gotten with the money. Otherwise, we would have tried to do
that. That's right. So yeah, as someone who's never tried carnivore cannot imagine why you would say no to $10 million. But as you say, if you got that $10 million and you had to go back to eating the same way again, the old way, you would just not be able to enjoy it the same way. Sure, you'd have fun. You can go out and you can buy things, but you got to do it with a sore back, or you've got to do it with low energy or things like that. And it's just not as enjoyable, right?
Well, both of us with our various issues, me in my 30s, you in your 40s, our life got very small during those times where we couldn't go out a whole lot for whatever reason. So yeah, we'd have the money would be in the bank, I guess. We wouldn't be leaving the house, but we'd have the money.
Yeah, it reminds me of Dust in the Wind. All your money won't another minute buy. And I want every minute feeling like this, not like I used to.
What advice would you give someone who was ready to start carnivore? They don't really know what to do. They know, okay, well, I've got to eat meat, I've got to eat eggs, but what else should I do?
Well, we constantly say binge, bury to build belief. So I think it's really important to change your programming, because those first steaks for me, it was hard not to cut the fat off and leave it, because that's how I thought I was supposed to eat. And so you need to retrain and get your mind completely around the new paradigm. And so channels like Barry's and like yours provide, I mean, I don't know how many interviews you had recently, so many testimonials from people who were very sick, who've made enormous progress. Those stories are invaluable to help build trust and belief that trying this for 30 days, 90 days is actually safe to do. Because I think for me, it was like, am I going to kill myself if I eat all this fat for 30 days? It actually felt like that was dangerous. So that would be the first thing. And then I would say commit for a minimum of 30 days to a pretty strict version of it. I like beef, bacon, butter, and eggs, but there's other opinions.
Yeah, I don't know. I did not start strict like he did. I had a little more variability around what types of meat I was eating. And I have never had an issue with dairy. And believe me, I've had all the testing in the world around dairy, and I've eliminated it in the past. So I say keep it pretty simple. If you want to go strict, fine. 30 days is a great start. And don't track anything. Don't worry at the beginning about how much fat you're getting, how much protein you're getting. Don't worry about anything. Just eat the meat, period.
Oh, Take before pictures.
Yes. Yes.
Because when the scale doesn't move for some people for 15, 30 days, 90 days, if they can have those comparison pictures, they'll see that the body recomp is happening.
Yeah, that's a really good point. You know, like you can get frustrated with the scale, but then when you look up at the mirror and you go, oh, actually, it's a different person.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't lose weight for months, but I was getting total body recomposition, which is why he could sell.
Yeah. Her pants were too big.
Could you talk a little bit about your channel, please?
Well, we started this end of December of 2023 because we felt like we had uncovered this secret.
Mhm.
And we watched all of the usuals on YouTube basically constantly.
Nonstop.
And you would think, well, once you figure out how to eat carnivore, why do you need to keep listening to it? But I think the reinforcement is really important, but also different people try different things and they get different results. Sometimes someone will have a very specific challenge with carnivore, and there's somebody out there who's also had that challenge. The other part was we wanted to show an example of a couple who's doing it together.
Mhm.
And honestly, it's a joint project that we get to work on together. It's really fun. We try to keep it very lighthearted. There's lots of laughing,
Mhm.
even to the point where some people are maybe a little irritated.
Yeah.
But we just wanted to give people a chance to be welcomed into what we're doing. And we talk about the benefits we've gotten, the challenges we've had, the things we're eating. And occasionally we make fun of a really stupid news story about carnivore.
And I think it was really important to add our story to the mix because, like we said, we sort of had those normal aging things. We don't have that big story of major diseases being reversed or losing 100 pounds. So we wanted to add our story to the mix as well, which, like you said at the top, was really, I've lost 30 pounds. That's incredible. My mood, my energy, my ankle, like I've got these benefits and you can have them too. Even if don't have 100 pounds to lose, you can have this type of a benefit.
Exactly. Yeah.
Awesome. So where can we find you? What's the name of the channel?
It's JJ and Eric Carnivore on YouTube. And we have new videos every Wednesday and Sunday, and we live on Fridays.
Yes.
Awesome. So I'll link to your channel in the show notes.
Thank
JJ
you.
and Eric, thank you so much for coming on and sharing your stories. I really appreciate your time.
It's been an honor.
Yes. Thank you so much.